Alright, hello and welcome to the 30th episode, I think, or 31st, I believe, on what if civilization started on another planet. Basically, in the last episode, a couple things happened, but besides that, I think this is going to be an interesting video. And also, on last stream, I've also worked a little on the rivers, or at least when I'm pre-recording this, since this might be pre-recorded, but we'll see how it goes. And also, you guys should come to my streams if I'm still doing, but then again, I probably won't, so it's gonna be a little confusing. But anyways, all I'm asking is for you guys to like and subscribe, because I guess our road now, little goal is 1,000 subscribers, since we need, I think, like 80 or 90 more, so that would be very much appreciated. But besides that, we should get onto this video. With stuff, for example, we have the beef with Finger and Sultanate, the two countries, but recently there's even been talks with each other. Even if they hate each other very much so, these two have agreed to work together on what? I can't say yet, but all I'll say is that they were able to get rid of this horrific hatred for now to do something even greater. But also, while on this little topic right here, what we also are going to be seeing, so basically what we're going to be seeing is the Sultanate Empire moving slightly more along this little coast area right here, kind of also, I guess, becoming really long right there. But mainly, they'll really focus up onto these areas, mostly over here, honestly, where they kind of start looking like this and they kind of spread out into these areas. And then we also see actually Limbos right here, which was kind of surprising. They're also able to get some of these lands right over here into these areas. But what we also see is this area. It's basically just a random big old gap. So, what we actually see is a little interesting. Basically, a lot of countries, most of them, they will all work together, basically all the ones that border this whole pocket. And basically what they'll do is they'll actually go to the capital city of, I guess, this country right here, the light reddish team, I want to say. Basically, all the countries, including like all of these guys right here, they will all agree to go to this meeting and just evenly divide up this little pocket so it is finally filled up, since they think it should just be fairly done. And with this, all countries agree, kind of, besides the dark blue team, but they were kind of able to get him, I guess, get them to agree, since they have these lands up here to expand to. Well, I mean, so do they, but most countries, I guess all of these guys, do not. So that is why. But basically, what is going to be happening then, we will be seeing the division of all of these areas. So basically, in this little treaty right here that we got, a little confusing, but don't worry. Basically, right here, these guys, they get all of these lands right over here. And next up, we can go right up here, where these guys are going to get all of these areas right here, making them quite big, and upsetting maybe these guys a little bit. But we also see the dark blue team getting all of these areas right here. We see the normal blue team get all of this. These guys getting this tiny little area, nothing crazy though. We see Zandonia getting this right here. Nothing too crazy. They probably got one of the smaller portions. And we also see Finger get these areas right over here. And then right here, you see there's a bit of some empty space. Basically, right here, what's going to happen is there's going to become a brand new country. So basically, right here, it's nothing crazy, because everyone agreed that no country should really get that much single land. So they agreed they would just make one small free state, just so everyone is happy. And their capital will be right over here. So basically, with this small little new country, and now the complete filling of this area right over here, everyone has become just a little bit happier. And it honestly looks a lot better. This map looking a little less disgusting. It's looking a little better. I almost forgot to give these guys something. I'll just give them this little land right here. So nothing too crazy. But anyways, what we will also be seeing is a couple more expansionist areas where we're going to be seeing like this. What colors? Man, I wish. We need more names. That's all I'm going to say. Basically, they're just going to kind of go around these areas, and eventually, since they are a fairly powerful country, they'll be able to get all of these areas right around. Not all the countries, right here. There you go. And now these guys are looking bigger. That's all I don't even know how else to describe it, but they also are, then again, a very strong country, so makes sense for them. Now, basically, with these guys expanding, I guess in a way they're number one enemy, which, since these guys did have beef with the red team, but then they unified with the pink one. So basically, since these guys have some beef, basically these guys right over here, they'll also try to do a bunch of expansion so they can hopefully still be on par with these guys, but that's going to be quite hard to beat. So, but until then, they're going to keep trying, and they're actually going to take a lot of areas, quite chunky. So they just look a little bigger now. I mean, they're really wide, actually. But what we also see is this country right over here, which I forgot the name of. I must remind myself. God damn it. Basically, they will also just decide to do a bit of expansion up in this northern area because they are definitely the strongest ones out of all of these guys. So they definitely have the ability to just kind of go along and around basically in a bunch of more areas than most of them. So they could just kind of start looking like, because while this was happening, we also saw the Glint Empire. They've also been quite busy with expanding into a bunch of these areas right over here and beginning to look like this. Also making some of these more bottom areas right over here. Also, basically, as we know, these guys, they have the biggest Golron population, and we obviously know these guys are also trying to do that. But here's the thing. Out of these reserves, we could kind of take a look. These are just a couple of examples. There's another small one that's fairly large right around this area. So basically what we see is a lot of like people that are really hungry for more money and more power. A lot of these people, they will decide to work together to make a brand new country that's basically just set on taking as many Gorons as humanly possible. So basically, these guys, they aren't that small. They're fairly large. And basically, what they're going to be doing is they're going to try to engulf as much as this like Golron area as humanly possible. At least that's what their goal is. And I mean, it works fairly well. They got a bunch of areas just to themselves, which probably at this point gives them the second largest behind, obviously, these guys with their insanely large one. So that is why these guys also, I must give them a capital, of course, but basically that's why we see this right here and this new country, which hopefully is also going to be selling these guys for a cheaper price, which could in a way affect the Golron stability when it comes to the purchasing from these guys, so they might be a little pissy about that. But one other thing is that Silva right here, the country known as Silva, they have been very silent, so what you're about to see is some very large expansion coming from them, because this has been probably over the course of the last maybe like 5-ish episodes, because they have been very busy with doing a bunch of work on getting a lot more land. So basically these guys, they would just kind of expand in all of these areas over here, looking something like this. Which at this point, they're getting very close, I guess, or maybe even surpassing the second largest country, which at this point is the blue team, which I think we gave a name, but I forgot. God, I'll get there eventually, trust me. So basically, with this, they like being number one. So what we also in a way see is that the dark blue team also goes on a bit of a rampage for when it comes to expanding. So they will, because they obviously still can a lot. So that's what that's what they're going to be doing. So basically, in a way, they get all of these areas right over here, making them look even bigger just like that. But what we also see is, since these guys are getting a little worried that they're going to be left out, they also decide they're going to do some expansion, and I guess quite some large expansion, since these guys also expanded, and then, in a way, they're kind of like enemies. It's like a mini Cold War, but like downgraded a lot. It's just two little silly little countries that are very weak, with them eventually looking something like this. But now I also want to quickly show right over here. As we know, this border has been like this ever since the collapse of, I guess, the chaotic green team. But basically, with this border being fairly fine, it still pissed some people off that they have this area right here. At this point, just, why don't you just give it to us, the pink team? But these guys, they don't want to hand it over. They want to keep it as them. So basically, over the years, this has been a border dispute multiple times. At this point, they're like, come on, you don't need this land. Just hand it over. These guys are like, no. So in a way, after multiple months of fighting, not fighting, of arguing, it is finally time for a certain country to make a move. And who might that be, you ask? That would be the pink team. So basically, what we see happening is that the pink team will start flooding some troops into this country, right in these areas, and of course their main objective, taking over all of this, which they do successfully, where they're able to take all of these areas right here. But obviously, here's the thing. This, like, maroonish country, they're a lot stronger than these guys, so I think you can guess how this is going to go. They're able to kick back these areas completely, but they do not get all of this back. They kind of struggle in these areas, which these guys have a fairly large foothold in. But the thing is that there's kind of an offensive in this area, which definitely catches these guys off guard. They were kind of hoping that wouldn't happen, but you can't expect everything to go too well. But basically, these guys, with some dysfunctioning in the country, it's just looking like this. It's a bit of a slaughter. And it's kind of not even close in the northern area, but because they were sending so many troops, down back in the south, this area doesn't have too much issue either, and actually it gets fairly close to the capital, which definitely concerns these guys, because losing your capital would be, at this time, very, very bad, and they even actually cut a part of this off, which makes them actually lose a bit of troops. So basically, it's quite even, but and also very scary. So these guys, they have to pull back a large number of these troops since they're also very far away, and they kind of have to let them lose all of this, like, half right here. Basically, this entire half goes bye-bye, while the rest of these guys, they will go back to the homeland and fend off these extra areas, recutting this part off, which had also a large number of troops, which was a bit devastating. But these guys, it will allow them to finally push back into these areas. Once they get to around here, they will continue their offensive, but also just continuing down into these areas right over here, even going down into a place something like this, until it even goes up into these more northern areas, where they finally recapture this, and it begins to look more like this, where we see them eventually beginning to lose a lot more. But what we see, being a red alert to literally every single person there, is these guys joining in the war. Now this is a very big no-no, because these guys, they were not very kind, especially to some people back down in the south over here. So this, to them, everyone, fairly so, is extremely concerning that these guys even have a military. They shouldn't even have anything. So once they realize this, even the pink team and these guys agree, we're going to stop this and not give them much land. So they agree on that. Now, since the north appears fairly valuable to these guys, what they were able to agree upon was that these guys, they would just lose this area, so it's kind of officially these guys's. So this is completely handed over back to them. But then they fix up this border and agree it'll just look something like this, just like that. But, of course, the mainly very concerning part is how these guys get this land right over here. It's not much land, but it's still enough land to be very concerning to everyone, because these guys, they shouldn't have a single piece of land just in general. They don't deserve anything. They shouldn't have anything, so this is, of course, very, very red alert. And they even begin to look something like this, becoming a little longer. And the pink team, being crippled as ever, being probably the third weak, maybe even the second, of course, behind these guys. That's going to be pretty hard to beat, being weaker than a silly little nation. But basically, another thing that's been recently happening is these guys, again, they're very peaceful. They don't want war. They're just peaceful guys. And they've also become democratic recently. With these guys, they've had very positive relations with these five down here. So they see there's a lot more stuff to this. It's actually really good. So basically, what happened recently was the original king, because this used to be a monarchy, ever since these guys fled from these over here, from one strong man, one very powerful leader, which was able to lead all these people. And eventually his family led the line to all this. The newest one, he agreed. Once his rule was up, he's done. When he can't do it anymore, he agreed. We will turn this country democratic. And obviously, that's good for the people. It's going to help them out, hopefully. So basically, what we see is a very early emergence of democracy in a way. Because it's kind of similar to Rome, where they only have a few years. And it is with two. What the hell? It is with two different people that are also ruling the country. So, basically, in the meantime, once these guys turned democratic, over a couple of years, something did happen, though. this island right here, they actually held a little referendum and they kind of asked for independence. And thing is, this isn't too important to these guys. So after a little bit, they also agree, okay, fine. We can give you some good old independence. And obviously these guys, they're thrilled and they're also surprised. They didn't expect it. They didn't expect that to be so easy in a way. So basically, we see this tiny little island nation, probably the smallest country in the world. I think it is because these guys were originally, but then they also have that little island, so I think that makes them slightly bigger. So I think we can also say that we have officially our new smallest country. And then, of course, gotta give them a good old capital, which will be right in the heart of the country, right over here. So these silly little guys, they're now their own free country, and they're happy and they're proud to be. And even though they did break away, they still hold very good relations. They just didn't want to be part of these guys. They just wanted to have their own little rule. But they still have very high relations and very good ones with these guys over here. But the other thing is that we finally see this area right here finally become filled up, because these two, they have had a couple disputes, but like they're mostly still chill when it comes to their relations. But these guys were finally able to agree on a goddamn peace deal on like, or I guess a deal on how these borders are going to look. So now we can finally take a look at that. So basically what we see here is that these guys, they're able to get this area right here, and after a lot of bargaining and losing some more land in these areas, they were also able to get this tiny little area right here, just so they have another passage, since they have like 1, 2, like 3 now, so I think it's 4 right here. So they have a lot, and they plan to have all of them in a way. So basically this has finally been filled, and hopefully these guys are now kind of happy. But also, we can take a look at these areas right over here. Now, I forgot the name of this country. It was like Arambe or something like that. So, basically, they're also just going to get a couple areas right over here. Just kind of spreading out into this place over here. As well as we can also see these main guys also just kind of go along these areas. Also, finally meeting up with them, continuing their way down until they finally have made it to the coast. Because these guys, they did a lot of expanding, but they finally get into those areas right over there. And basically, they do like a buttload of expansion. This is probably some of the largest. And this is finally what they end up with, getting all of these areas right over here. And the rest of these areas will go right to the pink team. And after another couple years, they agree these guys will also just get these lands. It is finally agreed that these guys will also, and that these guys are allowed to get some of these lands right up here in this area. And this finally, once I fix this border, and with this, we can also finally see these areas right here finally being filled up, and these nations have finally done themselves the good work of expanding and finally getting this done, but they're still very weak. I'll give them that. They might look big, which, I mean, they are extremely big, but they're still very weak, which is why we see these guys finally, after a very long time, which has also been weird. They've been very secretive. They've been very isolationist. They will also just continue up this coast right here, but it's still strange how silent they've been in all of this. But people, they're trying to just keep their mind out of that. They don't want to deal with any of that stuff. They just want to relax and hopefully have a good time, which is what we have been seeing, I guess, for a long time. These guys, not really caring that much. These guys also just going up into this area right over here. And we finally see the yellow team, which is still very powerful country and also very populated, also do some expansion up into these areas. Now, also, that is going to conclude it for today's episode. It's been very expansionist, and in a way I apologize for that, but we did have the Finger battle, which was a very fun thing, so hopefully that's able to make it up for this. But besides that, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and please do again like and subscribe, because close to 1,000. And all I'm going to say is that hopefully all the other pre-recorded videos are going to be a lot more simple than this. So